What screams we are not going to last long for couples? The way they speak to each other when they're not alone. I noticed this after my divorce and I started dating again, because you speak to these new people with a lot of respect and kindness. Then we'd get around married couples and they'd saw awful things to each other in nasty snappy tones, and it was jarring. Fast forward 10 years and all those couples I noticed doing that are divorced now. I know a couple like this. They bicker over every single thing and neither backs down. It's so uncomfortable. I can't imagine the fights behind closed doors when this is just freely around friends. When both make the atmosphere so uncomfortable when you are in their house. Passive-aggressive jabs they think you wouldn't notice, but you could cut the tension with a knife, like Michael and Jan's dinner party. That is a $200 plasma TV you just killed. Good luck paying me back on your $0 a year salary plus benefits, babe. Don't get me started on Michael and January. Michael and Jan are playing a game called Let's See How Uncomfortable We Can Make Our Guests, and they're both winning. I once knew a couple whose house was so uncomfortable, I half expected their couch to demand a resume and 3 references before allowing me to sit down. Walking on eggshells around your partner in terms of what you can and can't say. If you feel you can't disagree with your partner and/or voice your opinion without it turning into an argument, that can be not going to last or last several years too long. I once dated someone who wanted me to sign a legally binding contract every time I disagreed with them. Let's just say, our relationship didn't last long either. When one person wants to fix the other. If your relationship is a repair project, you didn't fall in love with who they are. You fell in love with what you want them to be. And if you do fix them, they'll most probably leave you, or you'll just find that they are not the same person you thought they were. Both of these things happened to me. I was not exactly in a relationship. She always said that she's confused. She has feelings for me, but doesn't know if she is ready to be in a relationship. Blah blah blah. And when I tried to stay away from her, she just wouldn't let me go. She just properly fucked me up for 2 years. Only mentally, not physically. I'm still trying to recover from that shit. I once knew a couple who had a relationship vision board with before and after pictures of their personalities. Needless to say, their future was looking a little photoshopped. If they have strongly conflicted plans for their future, either means they'll break up eventually, or one or both of them will end up in an unhappy compromise. Yep. Do not get married if one of you wants kids and the other doesn't. It is a whole mess. I have an aunt and uncle who I love dearly. He wanted kids badly and she did not. They almost divorced over it, but eventually worked through it. Traveled the world, had beautiful properties, the whole 9 yards. Now she is in her 60s, and every time she drinks she talks about how she should have had kids, and my uncle gets this look on his face that is difficult to describe, but it's not good. There was a Reddit post a while back from a woman complaining that she was child-free and her husband wasn't, and that it was affecting their marriage. She vehemently believed she was not supposed to have children and asked for advice on how to leave. Her husband later posted and clarified that her idea of being child-free was abandoning him and the 2 kids they already had to go sow her wild oats. I knew this couple whose future plans were more conflicted than a toddler trying to decide between candy and broccoli. Safe to say, their relationship was as stable as a one-legged table. Breaking up every few minutes and then back together again. Especially in the first couple months. Oof, yeah, imagine going for 5 years all of that. My best friend's situation. I know someone like this. She breaks up with a guy, who is a real shitbag, every few months. Then she gets lonely, goes back to him for a month or 2, then declares he's had enough of his shit and breaks up with him again. You can almost set your watch to it. I once had a couple as friends who broke up so frequently, they made Terry's chocolate oranges look like solid rocks. A recent personal experience I witnessed. The entire immediate family of one side of a wedding said it was a bad idea, and less than a month into the marriage one of them stayed at their mom's house for the night because they were fighting. Also, they got engaged as a result of a failed breakup attempt. How on earth do you fuck up dumping someone so severely that you accidentally end up marrying them? I had a friend that did this. He kept dumping her, and the last time, she just told him she had enough. The next day he came back begging for her and swearing that he loved her more than anything in the world. And she told him to prove it. So he proposed. She didn't know what to do, so she said yes, and it went downhill from there. if one or both of the people are controlling over the other. I once saw a couple where one person was so controlling, they even made the other person's GPS say recalculating every time they took a wrong turn. Where are you? Hanging out with my cousins. Really? VC me RN. My friend had to do this all the time with his lady. They are split now, but every time he'd get to my place to just sit around and watch movies or whatever, he'd have to do a 360 video of where he was. When he smashes her face in the cake at the wedding and she hates it. I did the manly thing and asked my wife. She said no, she was spending hours doing makeup and didn't want to ruin it. So instead I gave her a tiny forkful to eat and it was great. Communication and consideration for your most precious person, until arguably baby? This is too manly. Exactly right. I didn't even have to ask, she volunteered that if I did it, I was kind of a douche. Spoiler, I was not kind of a douche. I once witnessed a couple arguing over whether the wedding cake was a dessert or a weapon. Talk about starting marital bliss off on a smashing note. Lack of communication. Discussing every disagreement means screaming over each other, exploding, shutting off communications and/or running out of the room. So they won't be able to resolve anything in a constructive manner. My wife and I always make an effort to have a constructive conversation about any disagreements we have if they come to the point of frustration or dissension. It always results in a better understanding of the other person and their point of view. It's the most important thing in our relationship without question. If all disagreements end in arguments. Me and my partner disagree about a lot of stuff. But we can talk, discuss, and even sometimes agree with the other person's side. It'd be weird if you saw eye to eye on 100% of stuff too. Seeing eye to eye 100% of the time usually means that one person is just not voicing their opinion, which is a recipe for disaster. Very true. This reminds me of a video Mark Manson posted where said he the following. Saying no is the fundamental basis of boundaries in relationships. If you want to have a healthy marriage, you need to be able to say no to each other, tell your partner what you don't like or what your values are, and be willing to disappoint the other person and trust that they are going to stick with you. If you're never willing to disappoint your partner, then you never actually develop trust for them. You never actually know if they're going to stick with you when shit hits the fan. This is why couples that never fight eventually end up in a very toxic place. Opening marriage to fix problems. Tobias Funke, Lindsay, as a therapist, I have advised a number of couples to explore an open relationship, where the couple remains emotionally committed but free to explore extramarital encounters. Lindsay Bluth Funke, well, did it work for those people? Tobias Funke, no, it never does. I mean, these people somehow delude themselves into thinking it might, but it might work for us. Honestly, characters who are almost shockingly stupid but surprisingly competent in one aspect is one of my favorite tropes. Are you implying Tobias was a good therapist? Lol. I once heard of a couple who thought opening their marriage would solve their problems. Turns out, they just needed to open the door and let that toxic relationship walk right out. I was at a party one time and there was a marriage counselor there that had been working for 20-something years in couples counseling. I asked her what the number one sign was that the couple wasn't going to make it. Without hesitating, she said if one person shows contempt for the other's feelings, it's over. This is a really well-documented one. Contempt is a dead giveaway. The moment you start sneering or using incredulous sarcasm, you should consider it to be a red alert. My wife and I are doing fine these days, but a few of our worst fights have contained contempt. And fortunately, because we'd heard this guidance before, we realized we were in very dangerous territory and needed to take a really hard look at the root causes of what was pissing us off at each other. Anger can be a natural reaction, as long as it doesn't come with abuse. Contempt, however, is like black mold. Having a kid to fix their relationship. Ah yes. Like putting a dirty band-aid over an amputated leg. That's hilarious and so accurate. I've always thought about it like parking a heavy vehicle on a cracked and crumbling driveway, thinking that the parked vehicle is going to fix the cracks in the driveway. I once saw a couple who thought naming their pet goldfish marriage counselor would solve all their problems. Needless to say, they didn't swim far in the ocean of love.